Hello students, I am Dr. Amarjeet Singh, Associate Professor of Botany in Guru Nanak Khalsa College, Yamunanagar. Today we shall study about environmental factors. The contents of the topic will include an introduction to environment, environmental factors, and in this presentation we shall study about water and humidity as climatic factors. Let us begin with environment. The word environment has been derived from French word environner, which means to surround. Every organism is surrounded by certain conditions or factors, and all these conditions make up the environmental complex of that organism. So by definition, environment is the sum of all the physical, chemical and biological factors that affect the life of any organism. Organisms are in close relationship with their surroundings or environment. So, a study of relationship between organisms and their environment is called as ecology. And wherever any organism lives, that is its habitat. That habitat has got a particular set of conditions which make up the environmental complex for the organism. So any condition, substance or force that surrounds and affects the life of that organism is a factor of its environment. These factors are also called as ecological factors. These ecological factors have been studied from time to time by different ecologists. The earlier ecologists divided these factors into two groups. One was called as direct factors and the second was called as indirect factor. The factors whose impact was directly visible, they were called as direct factors, like temperature, light, humidity, etc. And those factors whose impact was indirect, for example, soil structure. This soil structure affects the water holding capacity, which affects plant growth. So its impact is indirect. Similarly, altitude. Altitude is the change in height. When altitude changes, variation in temperature takes place, and this altitude affects the life of organisms indirectly. So they were put into the category of indirect factors. But most of the ecologists now divide these factors into four categories. One is climatic factors. They are also called as aerial factors as they relate to the climate. Second was topographic factors. These factors are also called as physiographic factors and they deal with physical geography of Earth and may include like altitude, direction of mountain chains or steepness and slope of the mountains. Then third is edaphic factors. These factors relate to soil, its formation process, and physico-chemical properties of soil. Biotic factors include all kinds of interaction between different types of organisms. So we shall study about climatic factors, and in that our present lecture shall be restricted to water and humidity. Let us study climatic factors. Climatic factors include water, humidity, wind, light, and temperature. As climate is the average weather condition of any area over a longer period of time, and all these factors which control the climate, they are the climatic factors. Let us begin with water as climatic factor. Water is the elixir of life. There is plentiful of water on this planet. About 71% of the earth's surface is covered by water. Still we say that we need to conserve water. Why it is so? This is because about 97% of the total water is saline and contains salt in it. It cannot be used for most of the purposes except shipping, etc. The remaining 3% has got a huge amount, about 70% of that water, which is called as fresh water. 70% of the fresh water is locked up in glaciers and is away from human settlements. The remaining water is mostly underground, and in a nutshell, if we say less than 1% of the fresh water is accessible to humans, on which our life sustains. As far as India is concerned, we have about 2.4% of the world land area and about 4% of the world freshwater resources. And we have about 17% of the world human population in our country, and that is the situation. It's therefore we all must conserve our freshwater resources. Now excuse me, what are special things about water? Water is found to exist in all the three states of matter, like solid, liquid, and gas. In solid, it is in the form of ice. In a liquid, it is the water that we drink, and in the gaseous form, it is the water vapors. It is called as a universal solvent, as it is capable of dissolving more substances than any other liquid. Water has got cohesive and adhesive properties, due to which water and soluble substances are transported in the plants. It shows very slow change in temperature. Whenever the atmospheric temperature changes, it shows a slow change. On dissociation, water gives equal number of hydrogen and hydroxyl ions. Thus, it helps in maintaining almost constant pH in the living organisms. It has got high heat of vaporization, and thus it helps to maintain the homeostasis of body temperature. About 70% of our body weight is due to water, and many organisms have got 60 to 90% of their body weight. Water also acts as a reagent in many reactions. In photosynthesis, oxygen is evolved and the electrons are donated to the photosystems. Distribution of substances within the body in different forms like solution, suspension or colloidal form takes place due to water. Water also acts as a lubricant and helps to reduce friction in the body joints. It also helps to translocate the substances and therefore maintains the internal communication. Water has got its importance to maintain the turgidity of the cells. This turgidity provides shape and rigidity to the cells. The opening and closing of stomata is dependent on the availability of water, and many other metabolic processes are influenced by water. It also helps to regulate body temperature. Some waste products are excreted by the body using this water. Many biochemicals are reactive in the presence of water, right from seed germination till whole of the life. Water plays important role. It helps to determine the morphological feature of any organism. Xerophytes and hydrophytes are well adapted to the conditions in which they are growing, and depending upon the water availability, they adapt to it. Now, what are the water forms that are available to us? Water is mainly available to us in two forms. One is called as precipitation and the other is atmospheric humidity. Precipitation is the visible form, whereas atmospheric humidity is the invisible form. And the main source of soil water is precipitation. Let us study about precipitation. Water gets evaporated or transpirated in the form of water vapors. Cooling and condensation of water vapors results into the formation of clouds, and then they fall on the earth causing precipitation. This precipitation is received in different forms like drizzle, rain, snow, sleet and hail, dew and frost. Beginning with drizzle. When rains is coming in the form of light shower and the minute drops appear to be floating in air, it is called as drizzle. But when the drops of liquid water are larger and heavier than drizzle, it is called as rain. Rains in India are mainly caused by monsoons. Whatever water we receive through rains, about 45% of the water flows into the rivers. About 20% percolates into ground, and the remaining 35% is lost due to evaporation. Availability of rains in terms of quantity and the time period affects the vegetation type. So, in different parts of the world, as the availability of rainfall is different, the vegetation type is also different. Here is an example of annual rainfall and vegetation type. If the rains are moderate to heavy throughout the year in tropics, there are evergreen forests. But if there is moderate to heavy rain for 7 to 8 months in tropics, there are deciduous forests which shed their leaves in one season. If the rains are heavy in winter and low in summer, there is scrub forest. Scrub forest has sclerophyllous tissue, and tropical scrub forests are also called as chaparral. If the rains are heavy in summer and low in winter, it can support only small plants and grasses. The area has got grassland as its main vegetation. If there is scanty rainfall less than 10 centimeter, it is comprised of deserts and xerophytic vegetation is there. If there is less than 25 centimeter of precipitation, but it is in the form of snow, due to snow the temperature is low and alpine and tundra vegetation is there. Alpine vegetation is found at higher altitudes and tundra vegetation is found in the Arctic zone. They have got dwarf communities. So we see the relationship between the rainfall pattern and the vegetation type. Let us study about some technical terms that are used in precipitation. One is gravitational water. Whenever rainfall takes place, some water percolates down towards the groundwater. This is called as gravitational water. On the slopes, if it flows rapidly, a very small amount is able to percolate down. This major share goes off and this is called as runoff. Drip tips is the term used when the leaf tips of the plants are pointed downwards that allow the fall of water rapidly. Especially in tropical rainforests, wherever there are heavy rains, water is allowed to fall down rapidly so that it does not damage the leaf structure. Then sometimes forests also bring rain. The transpired water condenses and brings a very light rain. This is called as forest rain. Sometimes we seek shelter under a tree whenever there are light showers. The canopy does not allow the water drops to reach us. This is called as canopy interception. Then whenever the water laden air is moving over the surface and if suddenly there is a mountain range which prevents its flow, it starts rising. On rising, the water vapor laden air condenses to form clouds and brings rains on the windward side. The water free air moves to the other side where it does not bring any rain. So on the leeward side there is no rains. So it is called as rain shed. Precipitation is also received in the form of snow. It is formed when water vapors in the atmosphere condense directly to form ice without forming liquid water. Whenever this snowfall takes place, it covers the vegetation. It is called as glazing. The snowfall may cover the foliage parts and gaseous exchange may be prevented, which can be damaging to the plants. It may also create anaerobic conditions and many unnecessary byproducts may get accumulated. And because due to snow, lowering of soil temperature takes place and that may affect flora and fauna of that area. Sleet and hail are the other forms of precipitation. Freezing of water drops in the atmosphere due to fall in temperature results in the formation of small ice balls. If these ice balls are very small grains of ice, it is called as sleet. But if the ice balls are larger enough or lumps of ice, it is called as hail. Both sleet and hail are damaging to the plants, and if it is a heavy hailstorm, this may flatten the herbaceous vegetation. On melting, water is released and this can replenish the water bodies. The last form of precipitation is dew and frost. When moisture condenses on the surface of plants or the objects, it is called as dew. But when the temperature is low enough, the moisture can be seen in the frozen form. It is called as frost. In the winters, you must have seen it. Dew is important for the plants as in areas where there are lesser water availabilities. This can supply water to small and shallow rooted plants. But for frost, the low temperature can damage the plant cells. So these are different forms of precipitation. This water keeps on circulating in nature. It is called as hydrological cycle. It shows a continuous movement within the earth and atmosphere. A number of processes are involved. In the water cycle, evaporation takes place is the loss of water from soil or water bodies. Transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapors from plant surfaces. Condensation is the reverse process when water vapors condense to form liquid water and form clouds and come in the form of precipitation. This simple diagram indicates how evaporation and transpiration result in the loss of water in the form of water vapors. Then these water vapors condense to form clouds and precipitation takes place and brings the water back to earth. There are two overlapping water cycles. One is called as global water cycle. The other is called as biological water cycle. Global water cycle does not include living organisms, whereas biological water cycle is the part of water cycle and involves the biological organisms. So we have studied about water as a climatic factor. Let us now study about another climatic factor, that is humidity. Water vapors are present in the atmosphere. They are in the invisible form. It is called as humidity. Now at a given temperature, air can hold certain amount of moisture in it. If it is the maximum amount which the air can hold, it is called as saturation point. But humidity is measured in terms of relative humidity. It is the amount of moisture in air as percentage of the amount which the air can hold at saturation at the existing temperature. Generally, there is a difference between relative humidity and saturation. point. This is called as saturation deficit. And by definition, saturation deficit is the amount by which the water vapor in the air must be increased to achieve saturation without changing temperature and pressure. So this is why relative humidity is the percentage of the saturation point. Now how do we measure relative humidity? Relative humidity is measured by an instrument called as psychrometer. It has got two bulbs. One is dry bulb and the other one is wet bulb, because its bulb is wrapped with a paper or some cloth piece which is wet with water. Now we note the temperature of the two bulbs. The wet bulb shows slightly low temperature, as due to evaporation water is lost and temperature declines. The temperature difference of these two bulbs is used in determining the relative humidity. There are reference tables, and by comparing the two temperatures in the reference chart, we can get the value of relative humidity. If the difference between the temperature of dry and wet bulb is wider, the value of relative humidity is low. So we see that how relative humidity and the saturation point are related to each other. There are certain factors which affect relative humidity. One is the amount of water. The water vapors are nothing but water in the gaseous form. By increase in amount of water in air, relative humidity will go up. Second is temperature. Warm air can hold more water, and if temperature is lowered, the relative humidity value will go up even without adding more water, because with the lowering of temperature, saturation point shall be lowered. Altitude also affects the relative humidity, as with the increase in altitude, relative humidity also increases. Vegetation shall also contribute to relative humidity, because through vegetation water is lost by the process of transpiration and some moisture is added into the atmosphere. Wind speed and direction also are the factors which affect relative humidity. If the wind is flowing at a faster speed, this will mix up both relatively humid or less humid air and mix up the humidity. If the winds are coming up from the wet areas, they will bring moisture into the new site. If they are coming from the drier area, they will lower the relative humidity. So that is how relative humidity is affected by different factors. How this humidity impacts our life? Life is affected because loss of water from the body of living organisms is affected due to humidity. The processes like transpiration and perspiration are examples of it. The plants which are growing in the area having low or high humidity are well adapted to the conditions. Xerophytes and hydrophytes are its examples. Tropical rainforests are its examples. Then epiphytes can absorb moisture from the air by hygroscopic roots, which possess a special tissue called as velamen. So here we see that humidity affects the life of different organisms in different ways, and organisms are well adapted to it. So today we have studied about water and humidity as climatic factors. And as a recap, what we have studied today: what is environment, what are its factors. We have studied about water and humidity as climatic factors, their characters, their important, water cycling, and how they affect their life of the organisms. I hope the things are clear to you. See you again. Thank you.